morning, everyone. This is Dan Greisenhout coming to you again from my YouTube channel, doing another video on the subject of entrepreneurship. Today's title is What They Don't Teach in School. This particular topic came about after a conversation with a family member just a few days ago, where she had mentioned, as I was telling her about some of the benefits of being self-employed, she had said, boy, they don't teach you any of this stuff in school. So I got thinking about that and decided that it could be a very good topic for a video in this series. First off, let's talk about who is actually teaching you in the public school systems. Well, the Department of Education runs it. They build schools, they staff it with teachers, maintenance personnel, etc. All of these people are on salary, and that includes the teachers and those building the curriculums. Teachers then on salary are teaching you basically what they know, and what they know is how to get and how to hold a job, and the basic subjects of things you need to know, like math and everything else that will allow you to become a good employee. Who else is role models for a younger person in learning what to do in life and how to get through it? Well, parents. They lead you directly and by example. And how do they earn their money? Well, most parents earn their money on salary and working 8 hours plus a day for various companies. So what are they actually teaching you in school? Well, teachers are teaching you the basic skills in math and bookkeeping, English, history, geography, writing, typing, etc. Why? So you're actually equipped to start your salaried careers, which they, by the way, call vocations. What kinds of jobs do you ultimately get as a result of this education? Well, you can become teachers, bookkeepers, office workers, scientists, chefs, restaurant employees, auto mechanics, carpenters, government employees, etc. Are all these vocations salary jobs? Mostly yes. Do they teach entrepreneurship or self-employment at all? No. So basically, by the time you finish 12 or more years of schooling, you are programmed to look for a salary job. That is the way you are now architected mentally. So what are the teachers not teaching you? They're not teaching you how to start a self-employed career. They don't have courses in that. And they don't teach you the mathematics of tax returns and the benefits of being self-employed. And there's a big difference between the tax return filed by an employee and the tax return filed by a self-employed individual. So why aren't they teaching you self-employed? Well, salary jobs are what over 90% of the world's people do. And so they're teaching to the majority, and you can't fault them for that. It's salaried people who build the curriculums. They design what they know. Getting a job is the safest direction in which to send a student. Employees get a paycheck every month for life, and the schools help prepare you for that. Self-employed people, on the other hand, have to make it on their own ingenuity, drive, knowledge, and they have no safety nets. Teachers don't actually even really know quite how to teach that and how to take those kinds of risks. By the way, what category of worker generates the highest tax income for the government? The salaried employee does, and I'll explain that in the mathematics slides coming up. If you look at an overview of an employee tax return, the math goes like this. You earn a salary, you deduct your personal exemptions, your personal deductions, and you come up with a taxable income. Now, just for sake of calculation, let's say the tax rate is 30%. You're now paying taxes to them for that $50,000 income of about $12,000. On the other hand, if you are self-employed, and here's the big key differentiator on this, you start out with that $50,000 income, you take off your personal exemptions, you take off your personal deductions, but then you also get to deduct your business expenses. Now your taxable income amount is much lower. If you're using the same effective tax rate of 30%, you're paying tax of only $7,500 instead of that $12,000 plus on the example before. Well, what kind of things can you now deduct that you couldn't as an employee? Well, you can deduct your share of auto expenses and gasoline, auto depreciation, rent or mortgage relating to having an office in your home. So that percentage of your space that you're using for your business is all deductible, as are the share of all related home utility costs, telephone, etc., internet costs, advertising costs, office expenses, business meals, uniforms, shares of auto and home insurance. All of these things are eligible deductions from your tax return in figuring out your taxable income. And that is a major, major difference between an employee who can deduct none of this and a self-employed individual who can deduct all of that. So final comments on the mathematics part of the equation. As an employee, the tax department gets more of what you earn than if you are self-employed. So they're making more money off you as an employee. The key tax differentiator is allowable business expenses, like I said on the previous slide. Example one, a really clear way of differentiating is, let's say you're an employee and you drive to work. You get no deduction for that. You're basically eating the cost of your vehicle and the gas and everything else to get there. If you're a self-employed contractor driving to a project location, you can deduct the gasoline, the vehicle repairs, the license costs. You can depreciate the value of the vehicle you're in when you're filing the return. If you're out of town, you can depreciate all the hotel bills, etc., etc. So the tax department, by this structure, basically is making good money off the employee, but allowing the self-employed person who are risking much more by not having a steady monthly paycheck, they are rewarding them to allow them to keep more of what they earn. Now, why do they do this? Employers create jobs for those that want to be employees. Self-employed people often become employers, hiring employees who the government can then make good returns on tax-wise. The tax department recognized self-employed have no job security, no pensions, no holiday pay, or other employee benefits. And so they're cutting them a break on that. And the tax department recognizes that self-employed must regularly be marketing their next engagement, working to get their next sale, their next project, etc. And so they make allowances for that. Closing comments. Why do so few people become self-employed or entrepreneurs? First off, they're not taught any of it in school, so they don't know how to do it, how to even start. Secondly, there's a fear of the unknown. They've never been taught anything about entrepreneurship in their lives, and it makes them afraid to take that jump, to take the plunge, to try to do it. They just don't know where to begin, and so they just never start. They're afraid of losing their weekly or monthly salaried paycheck, and they need that feeling of security. They're taking care of spouses, children. They have their monthly costs to worry about. And so a lot of people don't take the jump just because of that fear and that risk. Peer influence as well. Most of their friends are going to be salaried people. Their friends, their families who depend on them, etc. They're all going to be talking to them, when they're saying, hey, I'm thinking of becoming an entrepreneur. Well, those same people that are giving advice, they're also afraid to take the plunge. And so they put doubts in the mind of those trying to consider it. People are afraid to sell anything to others. That's a major, major issue and a stopping point for a lot of people wanting to become self-employed. They don't want to put any purchasing discomfort on others, saying, hey, I'm doing this, would you like to buy it? It makes them uncomfortable. They're more comfortable in taking a job and a paycheck from an employer rather than having to risk and put themselves out in front of people and say, buy from me, trust me to provide this service. There's a fear there, and that stops a lot of people. Bottom line, though, is if you don't do something like this, many of you will put your retirement at risk. And that's why I'm making these slides, to try and get you to recognize this. If you have some fears, start off part-time. Keep the job for a while. As it actually starts to work for you and as you build confidence, then think about taking the jump full-time. So you don't have to jump in completely at first. Take your time, do it right. In any event, you have to do something if you want to have security for your retirement. We're at the end of this particular presentation, and once again, I would just like to ask you to click on the top corner to subscribe to our channel if you would like to see more of these videos. Thank you again for watching.